A possible microburst hitting Topsham yesterday afternoon. We're live from the damage zone with the latest this morning.
Meteorologist Ryan Breton joins us live from Topsham now with a closer look at the storm and what it did. Hi, Ryan.
Sharon and Lee, good morning. The cleanup underway already here this morning in Topsham, where you can see behind me Central Maine Power just rolling up here on the corner of Andrea Street and Haskell Circle. This all unfolded around 4:45 yesterday afternoon when a pretty violent storm moved through here, and residents describing it feeling like a microburst, which is a big downburst of wind causing pretty widespread wind damage, and that's exactly what we saw here. But this isn't the only place with wind damage. There also was some in Sabattis, and we have some video of that to share with you this morning. Trees knocked down there. Now the good news is no reports of injuries in Sabattis or here in Topsham. In the Topsham area, that's certainly where the damage was most widespread. It all started around the Ivanhoe Road section, crossed over Route 196 into this part of town, basically paralleling 295 to the northeast. And there are dozens of trees down. Some homes have been damaged by these trees as well, and the power restoration is still in progress this morning. Have not heard if the National Weather Service will be out investigating to determine whether or not this is a microburst, but regardless, this just goes to show why it's so important to take severe thunderstorm warnings for wind seriously. Sometimes just a regular old thunderstorm can knock down trees and power lines, just as this one did yesterday. Good news this morning, though, no reports of injuries. We'll have much more coming up on the morning report at 6 a.m. For now, we're live in Topsham. I'm meteorologist Ryan Breton, News Center Maine. Right now on the morning report, cleanup underway after a possible microburst in Topsham yesterday. I'm Ryan Breton, live with the latest.
We're going to bring in Ryan Breton, who's live in Topsham this morning. They got hit hard by some strong thunderstorms. Hi, Ryan.
Todd, they sure did. Good morning. Now that the sun is up, we can really see the scope of the damage. And take a look right behind me. Tree uprooted. This is right on Andrea Street in Topsham, which is just off Route 196. And in this one neighborhood, the damage ranges from a home with a tree down on it that almost went into a person's kitchen to 3 cars that have been smashed and damaged by trees as well. Now, the good news is no reports of injuries from here in Topsham, but the fire department had to respond to nearly 30 calls as this storm came through around 4:45 yesterday afternoon. It started just on the other side of Route 196 and then paralleled 295 to the north. Residents in this area describing the strong wind gusts, the hail that came with it, only lasting about 5 minutes. And some say it seems like it may have been a microburst. And to my trained eye, it seems like it may have been, just given the scope of this damage and how many trees have been knocked down. Now, one contributing factor likely to be the very saturated ground. That's why it's so easy to fully uproot trees, as you saw behind me. And this wasn't the only part in the state that saw damage too. There were reports of damage out of Sabattis. Also just over the river in Brunswick, there was some tree damage as these storms came in this afternoon. Central Maine Power here this morning, still restoring power at 1,1500 customers without power. That's been reduced now to just a few hundred, but clearly the damage will need to be cleaned up today, and that process is just getting underway as the sun comes up this morning. For now, we're live in Topsham. I'm meteorologist Ryan Breton, News Center Maine. Damage is quite extensive in Topsham this morning after a thunderstorm bringing a possible microburst yesterday. I'm Ryan Breton. The latest coming up in the live report.
Cleaning up from some pretty serious storm damage this morning.
Yeah, trees down everywhere. Thousands of people have lost power in parts of the state. And our Ryan Breton's been live with us in Topsham all morning. Has a closer look at what was some really wild weather. Hey, Rhino.
Lee and Sharon, good morning. The damage here in Topsham is quite extensive. We are right off Route 196 on Andrea Street and Haskell Circle. And as you can see behind me, that's one example of part of a tree falling down on a home. I was speaking to a neighbor who says the woman in that home was in her kitchen and just missed being hit. Power has been restored to part of this area, but there are still lines down at the corner of this street here. And also there isn't water in some of these homes right now. So people waking up to some real problems here this morning. This all started around 4:45 yesterday afternoon, but this isn't the only spot that saw damage. We have some video from Sabattis where there were really strong gusts up to about 60 miles per hour. And you'll notice all those trees there are uprooted. And that's an indication that the ground likely saturated and playing a role in this. Gusts close to 60, 65 miles per hour, more than enough to topple trees when the ground is saturated, and that likely a factor here. Topsham Fire and Rescue responding to nearly 30 calls yesterday, but the good news, despite widespread wind damage, no injuries reported so far. And this path of damage extends from one side of Route 196 up paralleling 295 for about 2 miles in sporadic areas. And it's believed that this thunderstorm let down a downburst of wind around 60 miles per hour, and that's responsible for all the damage. We'll have much more here throughout the day on our website and mobile app as well. Live in Topsham, I'm meteorologist Ryan Breton, News Center Maine.